So here we are for the final time this year. Autumn Nation Series round 4 is upon us. Obviously only 2 games this weekend. Wales, Australia first, and then England, South Africa, which is a replay of the 2019 World Cup. Looking at the team sheets then, obviously for Wales, massive boost having Alun Jones back. Not actually captain, Justin Tipuric remains as captain, but I would say they have a pretty decent squad. Joe Hawkins is starting at 12. I think he's something like 2021. This is obviously will be his first cap, so hopefully he can perform. Lee Halfpenny obviously back at 15 as well. Rio Dyer also recalled into the squad. So I think for Wales, it's probably a pretty good outfit. And then looking at Australia, once again, they're out without Michael Hooper, their captain. But then again, I think they've also got a pretty decent squad available. I think they actually had 26 available to pick from, obviously in the 23. So a bit of a thin squad for Australia. However, the team doesn't look too bad. Donaldson comes in at 10. And then obviously the back line looks pretty strong to me. Reece Hodge at 12, which is the only question mark maybe, but he's played there before and really performed. The back 3 for me looks pretty terrifying. Tom Wright at 15 looks a great pick. Then looking at England and South Africa. England have made a few changes, obviously to the front row here. Vunipola and Jamie George. Alex Coles actually starts at 6, probably because Eddie Jones just wants a little bit more size and obviously another line-out option. So a big call there, but I think he'll do well. And then the back line, the only change is Tommy Freeman in for Jack Nowell. I think he can have a decent game. I think there's a lot of speculation around why he was picked over Nowell, just for experience, but I guess in these big games you need to bring in young players to obviously get them experience, so I don't see anything wrong with it. Then obviously South Africa have named a really, really strong side. Not too dissimilar from their World Cup side. Obviously they've got Evan Roos starting at 8, which is a huge boost for them. Mapimpi comes back into the side, which if you're looking at captain options is a huge play this week. Obviously Curtly Aaron's absolutely on fire at the moment, also another good captain option. And then, of course, you've got Marks on the bench, who absolutely flew into last week. So, let's take a look at my squad. But before we dive in, if you've enjoyed all the content over the past year, or even just the Autumn Nations, then please drop a like and subscribe to the channel. As I mentioned, this is the only rugby fantasy YouTube channel out there, so if you can support and we can create a great community, then we have amazing videos going forward. So just once again, thanks for watching my videos, guys, and let's get into my team. So first up is the front row. I've actually gone for the change for England in Mako Vunipola. I've gone Mbonambi and Kyle Sinclair. So reason why I've gone Mbonambi, I just think South Africa's driving maul and line-out capabilities are so strong. Mbonambi and Marks as a duo really perform well together, so I think Mbonambi can really do some damage against England. Saying that though, I think the carrying ability and handling ability of England's 2 props will also be key, which I guess is why I've picked them. Moving on to the second rows, I've gone with Mostert again. Really did actually really well last week. Got almost 45 points for a second row, which was obviously fantastic. So I'm expecting him to have another dogged game again today. And then Neville for Australia. I think he's just a solid option. Obviously partnered with Frost in the second row for Australia. Yeah, I think he scored some pretty decent points, like almost 30 over the last 2 game weeks, which is not too bad. Then my back row, I have gone pretty big. Tom Curry, Faletau and Khaleesi, probably the 3 best back rowers of each team. So Tom Curry, we obviously know of his skills and obviously dominating that tackle area. I think if England are to beat South Africa, it'll be at the breakdown and also due to their defence. So Tom Curry can lead that, no problem at all. Faletau, obviously we knew what he did off the bench against Georgia. Performed well as a super sub, but obviously didn't get them over the line for the win. But he'll obviously be wanting to prove a point and end the Autumn Nations with a win. And then Khaleesi, he actually just finds himself, I guess, in the 10-metre line, away from the touch line. So he's a really good option, obviously, for assists and even try scoring. So he's already scored 1 try, and I think he's got an assist as well last week. So a really good option for a back row to get even more points than just tackles and breakdown wins. At half-backs, I've gone with the 2 Welsh. So I've gone with Anscombe and also Thomas Williams. So Williams is a pretty good try-scoring threat as well. Obviously didn't do too great last week, but it's the Georgia loss. But yeah, I think he can have a good game and get on the end of some really good plays and hopefully score some tries. Then Anscombe, I don't actually think he's missed a kick in this Automation series. Obviously, with Lee Halfpenny back, there is the chance that Halfpenny kicks instead, but I think they'll back Anscombe, seeing as though he's had a really decent tournament so far. And also, he can rack up some metres in carrying too. In at the centres, I've gone with Ikitau and Farrell. So centres were really hard because I wanted to pick, obviously, solid options elsewhere. And Ikitau is actually the only Australian option in fantasy. So a little bit scarce there. I just think he can be pretty solid. But to be honest, I wanted to pick other nations elsewhere. For example, even Wales, I think the only option was Joe Hawkins because Georgia North is a back 3 player in fantasy. So it was a pretty tight call. Then obviously Owen Farrell, he did pick up that injury to his ankle last week and therefore didn't kick, but he will kick the goals against South Africa, I'm sure of it. And if they are to win, then that'll be a key recipe for success. Then finally, for my starting team, I've gone with Curtly Aronsur, Freddie Stewart and Tom Wright. So Aronsur absolutely had a huge week last week. I do expect him to have the same impact again this week, just because he offers something different to a lot of the South African players. Obviously, Mapimpi on the other wing is similar, but Aronsur is a little bit like Colby. He can just have that ability to change the game. Freddie Stewart, obviously named in the World 15 this year, which is huge for him. He has actually been one of England's most solid players. He rarely makes mistakes and also gets them on the front foot. So I think he can have a pretty decent game. And then I've actually captained Tom Wright. So I think in fantasy he's created something well over 200 metres. So playing at fullback, I think he'll want to obviously run the ball. Great try-scoring threat, being an out-and-out winger as well. Little bit of a controversial captain pick, I'd say. Aronsur is probably the mainstay pick. But I didn't have a great week last week, so I have to go for a little bit of a differential. Looking at my team, I'm not overly certain that it's going to stay this way. I may make some changes. The other option is obviously to go all in on the team that you think is going to win. So for example, I think Australia and South Africa will win the game, so I could go 5 for South Africa in the starting team and 5 for Australia in the starting team. That is an option you can take, but then obviously you're putting all your eggs in one basket. And then finally on the bench, it was expected. I super subbed Malcolm Marks. Just an absolute workhorse. He may even come on earlier than 60 minutes like usual hookers do, because that's just something that South Africa tend to do. If they're down in the game, then they could just bring on their bomb squad as it is. So I'm really hopeful for Marks' impact. Then the other 2 people on the bench, Jordi Pataya and Rio Dyer. So we all know of their capabilities, both wingers in that Wales-Australia game. Yeah, they can obviously make huge meters and super rapid, so really high try-scoring threat, I'd say. Other super sub options could potentially be Manny Libok from South Africa. Obviously, they do have 3 backs on the bench. Hendricks are obviously 9, Libok and Moody. But I think Libok did come on, I think it was last weekend, and kicked some goals and had a pretty decent game. So could be an option there. Obviously, for England, you've got the likes of Henry Slade, Jack Nowell. Ben Youngs also did change the game. Ellis Genge is on the bench as well. So that is a huge super sub option too. Obviously, a prop or super subbing a prop is a little bit weird, but it's Ellis Genge, so anything could happen. Just look at Will Stewart last week. Came off the bench and scored 2 tries. Sam Simmons also a really good option too. Looking at the Wales-Australia game, Jock Campbell for Australia and Pete Samo I would say is probably the best super sub picks there. Obviously for Wales, Josh Adams, Kieran Hardy, Ryan Elias is who I would say are the best super sub options. So there are a few other options to go for super sub, because obviously I know that is such a key position to get maximum points. So to round it off, thanks for watching guys. Hopefully you all do great in this upcoming round. Hopefully I do a little bit better than last week, and I'll see you for a roundup video next week.